in our family, so this was not a surprise. We noticed right away, kindergarten, first grade, he just wasn't picking up what the symbols meant. And so we asked for a screening or a full neuropsychological evaluation because we homeschooled him up until this was the beginning of 4th grade, and I knew that me saying my child had dyslexia wouldn't mean as much as a professional. So in the fall of 2017 we had an official evaluation, and he was found to have dyslexia. I'm thankful they used the word dyslexia. His paperwork says a specific learning disability in reading, parentheses dyslexia, okay. Specific learning disability in written expression, and he was also diagnosed as high-functioning autism, which was a surprise. And when we moved here, the psychologist who engaged him when they were setting up a transition IEP was marveling how the dyslexia was his disability and how the autism was not. It's just a very mild quirkiness to him. It isn't a socially inhibiting thing for him. It is truly the profound dyslexia of decoding symbols to language. And we're going to use science, right? We're going to use what has been proven effective, and that's where I had a rude awakening of science not actually being followed in the classroom in this millennium. Feeling like, where are we at? Why is my child being segregated? Why is my child being pulled out for 3.5 hours for special education when he's on grade level in mathematics and and if you read him a text 2 years higher than his age, so technically 6 years higher than his reading ability, decoding ability, and then you ask him questions he can answer with 95% accuracy. Duty Army. We enrolled them in school that was in Missouri. We homeschooled before, and we lived in Texas, in El Paso, and my husband had orders to move to Missouri, and that's when we, set up an outside of the school diagnosis. I didn't realize that they would evaluate and find him to have a learning disability in the school. This was my ignorance, or as I learned to understand how special education works. So I met with this IEP team, and they said, "Don't worry, ma'am, we know what we're doing." And I continued to ask, "What kind of curriculum are you using?" And my husband's like, "Babe, just let it be. You've got to trust people." And so a year went by, and my child had no progress in reading, literally, still at a 1st grade reading level 12 months later. And we sat down at the fall of his 5th grade year, and I said, "Okay, so what are we going to do differently this year? Obviously what we're doing isn't working." I did not say that, but and the special education teacher said, "I've dusted off my copy of Hooked on Phonics. We're going to give that a try." And I picked my jaw up off the floor, and we left the meeting, and then we had a meeting with some other people in the school district, and we were stonewalled effectively, and to look at what the schools were doing in Pennsylvania. And we contacted, this was our eventual plan to retire here when my husband was done with his service. And we filed all of the necessary paperwork in the military to ask to move to a state that had laws that would be supportive and have screening laws and appropriate intervention for children specifically with dyslexia, because of course I'm on this learning curve. They offered us 3 duty stations that had wonderful resources for children with autism. Our child has an autism diagnosis, but has never received or required services. He only needs help with dyslexia. All of the letters of recommendation said he needs help with dyslexia. He needs evidence-based instruction, Orton-Gillingham-based. And so we made the decision to move myself and our 3 children here to Pennsylvania, enroll them in a local public school district who uses the Wilson method with fidelity, with an instructor who is certified at level 1. And my husband is now stationed in another state and comes to visit when he can for the next 3 years. Where am I going to find this? You know, our child needs to learn to read. He is now in the 6th grade. He is barely to a 2nd grade reading level. He's going to start middle school next year. My child needs to learn to read in order to be successful in high school, to have a career, to lead an independent life, and hopefully be blessed with a family and provide for my grandchildren. So this is a life view perspective as opposed to a crusade for one child.